Catalyst podcast. My name is Sarah Bramall. I am not joined today by my friend and co host Rebecca Daniel because unfortunately her little boy is not very well. So I am flying solo today. But the good news is, I am joined by a wonderful guest. I'm joined by Melissa Jans van Rensburg, who is one of our wonderful supervisors in the Coaching Catalyst Collective. So, we've got a great conversation ahead of us today, exploring with Melissa her passion for coaching, her passion for supervision, and learning more about her. So, without further ado, Melissa, welcome.
Mm.
Great to have you here.
Thanks, Sarah. It's lovely to be here. I was really looking forward to today and connecting with you. So thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. No, me too. Really looking forward to our conversation. So, for anybody who doesn't know you, it'd be really great if you would be happy, please, to introduce yourself.
Sure. So my name is Melissa, and I am an ICF PCC accredited coach. I'm also a coach supervisor, and I do ICF mentor coaching as well. So a little bit of an all-rounder. Yeah.
Very welcome, Melissa. Lovely, thank you. And I like that. Like myself and Rebecca, we like to have, we like to have our fingers in different pies. Or actually, a better analogy is what our lovely supervisor Nicola says. She likes to have her revenue cake, and there are different slices of the
Ah.
revenue cake.
I
Yeah, it's
like
lovely,
that
isn't it?
idea. And each one's got a different flavor as well.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly that. Each one's got a different flavor. So, we'd love to learn a bit more about you, about your backgrounds, about your experience. So, tell us a bit more about that.
Sure. So, I started my coaching journey through IPEG in 2019. So it was we did our first few modules in person in Amsterdam, and then COVID hit, and then we had to move online. There was an interesting training journey that we went through, but it was really enjoyable to have those in person modules. So I started in 2019. I graduated in 2020, and I loved the experience so much being in the classroom that when I was sitting in those classrooms, I decided I wanted to be a coach first and foremost, but I also wanted to be involved with helping to develop coaches as well, because I just saw so much potential and strengths that I could bring to that as well. So yeah, so then after that, I've been coaching for about 5 years, and then jumped back into the classroom to help support my fellow coaches through IPEC as a support assistant trainer. And then I did my coaching supervision diploma in 2023, and I'm now practicing supervision as well and part of your wonderful community.
Oh, thanks,
Yeah.
Melissa. And we love having you in our community. And lots of what you're sharing there is resonating also about my own journey. So I did my coach training a little bit earlier in person, so 2016, 2017. But I did my NLP training actually during the pandemic. And that was all, that was the first time that that had transitioned online. And yeah, that was a really interesting experience. And just like you, actually, when I first went along to find out more about coach training, I was in the room as well. And I was like, yes, I want to be a coach. And yes, I want to be a trainer as well. So, yeah,
Lovely.
yeah, yeah. It's
And you,
amazing. Go
sorry,
on.
and you have teaching experience and background, so that makes so much sense as well, that you
That's
would love
true.
that.
That's true. I think that teacher, I think as we said at the beginning, we play or have all of these sort of different roles. But actually, if I had to really describe it as one role fundamentally for me, it would be teacher.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about you, Melissa? What was your sort of professional background before you made that transition into coaching?
I was in branding and marketing, so that's what I studied after school. I went and studied, got a degree, and worked in it. Worked for various organizations. Also started my own business as well. So I was helping startups, entrepreneurs, NPOs to do their branding and marketing. And then I went through my own personal journey where I went through a divorce and had coaching as a result of it, and really learned a lot more about myself. And that's where I decided that I wanted to become a coach. And so
Ah.
that's how I ended up, yeah, going on the coaching journey and becoming one myself. So yeah.
Wow, thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. It's yeah, I find that when we speak to fellow coaches, generally there are sort of two trends. One is I stumbled across coaching accidentally and I somehow ended up in a coach training kind of environment and decided that's what I want to do. But or the second story is I had like yours, I had coaching myself and it inspired me and that's when I decided that I wanted to become a coach. So what was it without obviously kind of going into the sort of personal details, but what was it about the experience of being coached yourself that you found inspirational?
Mm. I think what stood out for me the most was understanding my strengths more. I think up
Mm,
until that point, I wasn't really aware of what they were, like my natural talents and strengths. And that really stood out for me. And as well as obviously building the confidence, helping the coach, helping to support me to develop my confidence in making a career change and seeing myself becoming a coach and making that change. That was also very helpful because it's quite scary to shift your career as well. So that was really
mm,
what supported me and what I found the most valuable in it, in coming to that decision. Yeah.
I love that, Melissa. Thank you. And you're absolutely right because in life in general, we tend to focus on what we're not so good at, don't we? And what we're not doing so well, or where our areas for growth might be. And that's really important. But I think it's really quite rare that we have the opportunity to really look at what our strengths, our skills, our attributes, and to look at how we can highlight those. And I
Mm.
think also what you've shared about your experience there was that ability to imagine an alternative, a future version of yourself to so first of all to conceive that and then build that confidence to make that
Mm.
transition into being that person that you wanted to be.
Yeah, definitely. It highlights those coaching skills, right? Like visualization and
Right.
I'm just thinking now about yeah, often as coaches, people want to come to talk about what they can do better and how they can
Mm,
be different. And I think it's so important to also highlight your strengths and to spend time actually understanding them on a deeper level. Yeah,
mm,
so that was really important for me. And and also as a coach, I really enjoy supporting others to do that as well. Really
mm.
understand themselves and their strengths better. Yeah.
Absolutely. So tell us more about that now, then. So about the work that you're doing now, about well, let's go to the. I know you, as you said, you have lots of different hats, but let's stay with coaching for now. Tell us more about the nature of the coaching work you do and what's important to you about that.
So I'm an associate coach for a few organizations where I
Mm,
mostly support professionals in their development, in their leadership roles, a lot of women as well, building confidence in the workplace and themselves as leaders. And then personally, outside of the organization, some support some women with transitions as well. So that's one of my passions. I don't do it a lot, but I like to support women here and there. So day to day, it's supporting, as I say, professionals, leaders, developing their confidence, working on their communication,
mm,
helping them to develop others themselves. So helping them to grow their own coach approach to their leadership.
mhm.
And yeah, I would say that's pretty much my day to day where I coach and how I coach and who I
Mm,
coach as well.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And I would say, for me too, in the sort of coaching work that I do, it is exactly like you say, like working with female leaders, helping them like make a transition into a new role, into a new team, and really working on that confidence, particularly, seems to be really key, doesn't it, when we're making any kind of transition?
Yeah, exactly. And also, if you're getting a promotion, a lot of people that I work with, they're getting promotions. And so it's helping them with the confidence in that new role as well, to
Mm,
really trust themselves that they already have what it takes to be there and that they don't have to prove themselves, that
mm,
they're being promoted for a reason, and to to help them see those strengths that they already have.
So what I'm receiving from you is that real sort of strengths-based approach.
Yeah.
So moving now then into supervision, what would you say about your kind of love of supervision or your approach in the supervision context?
So I pick coach training very much based on raising consciousness and raising your awareness. And so that was my
Mm,
foundation as a coach, is coming from that perspective. And when I went through my supervision training, I noticed that I kept coming back to that, right? And really, the supervisor then that I envisioned myself being was one that is helping to raise the awareness of the coaches themselves, to help create their help them see their blind spots, help them raise their consciousness as an individual, so that they can then better support their clients, their coachees. And so that, I would say, is the background and the approach. And then if you want to dial it down into modalities, I would say it's Gestalt, transactional analysis. Like, those are where I would place it more in the
mm.
supervision realm of things.
Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? Because I guess I'm thinking about coaches who are maybe not in supervision, and what that supervision space allows us to do, as you said, is to really raise our consciousness, to really raise our self awareness. And I'm wondering for you, what's important about that in terms of the impact it has on the work that we do as coaches?
I think it allows us to be detached a lot more as supervisors,
Mm,
and not, because I mean, you've got the different lenses, right? And you can come from if you're looking at the 7-eyed model, you can come from a level 6 lens as the supervisor. But I feel that it allows us to be less attached to the outcome. And even if we share of our own experiences, we don't we don't take it personally if the coach doesn't listen to us or take our advice. So it really allows us to be less involved, with them. More, what I'm trying to say is, yeah, less attached to the outcome for them, and more,
mm,
and allows us to see our own blind spots, so that
mm,
we can see how we're showing up, and choose differently if we notice that our ego is taking over in a conversation, that we
mm.
can choose differently, step back, and come to the conversation from a different angle or perspective.
Yeah, thank you. And what you're sharing, actually, I'm listening at the moment to Julie Starr's book, The Mentoring Manual. And, obviously, mentoring is different from coaching in that we can offer perspectives, we can offer advice. But one of the points that Julie Starr's really emphasizing, and the bit that I'm listening to at the moment, is exactly what you say about putting something on the table, but not being attached to the outcome, not allowing our ego to dictate the agenda, so that the person that we're working with feels empowered to make their own choices and their own decisions about the solution that's going to best fit them and their circumstances.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I guess that's the goal, whether it's in coaching or supervision as well, right? At least for me, is to help the coaches feel empowered in their practice, in their work, so that they can build that self-sufficiency as well.
Yeah, and tell me more about that, Melissa. What's so important about coaches feeling empowered in their work to build their self sufficiency?
I think a lot of new coaches that come
Mm,
into the profession, like ACCs, that are still building their confidence and their
mm,
experience, that
mm,
they're they're learning to trust themselves more in
mm,
any kind of situation, any topic a client might bring to them, that they're not feeling like they need to go check their list of questions that I can ask this client, or have a paper next to me with model I learned in my training, that they can put those away and
Mm.
really trust themselves and show up without anything around them to support them.
Yeah. And again, that really resonates. There was an MCC coach posted on LinkedIn this morning actually to say, how would you in one sentence define the difference between an ACC coach and a PCC coach if we're thinking in ICF terms here? And for me, it's the difference between transactional coaching and relational coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, like when we start off, we're maybe very attached to like, this is the model, or these are the questions, or this is the right way to do it. But actually, as we grow in experience, we are able to operate in a more relational space because we've got the trust and assurance in ourselves to be able to be fully present in the moment and responsive to the person that we're speaking to or working with.
Yeah, yeah. And as you were saying that, it made me think of that it's an evolvement that we have as coaches, right? As well, like if we're also speaking in ICF terms, we evolve from
Right.
ACC to PCC to MCC, and that evolvement
Mm,
is becoming less attached, self-sufficiency, and then own letting go of your own ego, and
mm,
really becoming masterful in, yeah, showing up without any judgment or attachment.
mm. And just kind of circling back to supervision, I guess that what that is making me think then is that we don't get that from reading textbooks necessarily or doing more training or more qualifications. That's where the supervision space I think is so valuable because, as you said, it allows us to zoom out of ourselves and look at our practice, and as you said, to look at any blind spots, to to be able to sort of analyze ourselves, but again without sort of attachment, but just to be able to have that lens of like, actually, what's going on here? What might I not be seeing? How might my ego be getting in the way here? So that's, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and that's why I love supervision, right? And
Mm,
being a supervisee and a supervisor, you get to also see it then from both angles, and I really love that. It's like the teacher as well, right? You get to teach and see your students grow, but you're also learning more yourself while you're doing it.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's a great actually point. That's a great direction to take the conversation because we've talked about sort of being supervisors, but what about being supervised yourself? Because I just love, like, I'm in one-to-one supervision and group supervision. I just love supervision so much. So tell me about your experience of being supervised. Like, what do you get from that?
Yeah. I personally enjoy one to one a lot more,
Yeah.
where I have the space and the freedom and the attention. So I'd have done group supervision as a
Mm,
supervisee,
mm,
but I really enjoy one to one a lot, and yeah, just the awareness that it's given me as a coach and also as a supervisor, because when I'm being supervised, I'm also noticing what my supervisor is doing. So that's helping me
mm.
grow in more ways than when it's supporting my development and my awareness in multiple ways. So yeah, really, really am passionate about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And again, I think I'm just thinking about coaches who may not be in supervision for whatever reason. I think that word supervision and that term supervisor can be like a little bit daunting or a little bit off putting. So, what would you say to people who are like, oh, I'm not really sure I want to be in supervision? Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I must say that word sometimes, and when I first started my diploma, I was also a little bit like, it sounds like you're being judged, you're coming to be judged for your coaching. And I like to, let people know that it's not about being judged. It's more of a place where you can come and reflect and think. And I try to liken it to coaching. So, it's a place for you to come with there's no judgment, where you can work through your challenges that you're having, and I'm here to support you. So I haven't found a word to replace supervision in terms of my language yet. But in terms of marketing, that's the explanation that I like to give people.
I love that. Yeah, and that is
Yeah.
that's a challenge, right, for our marketing gurus. What's the word that we would use to replace supervision if we could? But I definitely get that from you, Melissa. That sense of affiliation, like support. I think your energy is really gentle and really positive. And so I haven't been supervised by you myself, but I think if I was going to be supervised by you, I think I would really feel um that you create a really like safe container um, in which I think I would feel that I could come and put on the table whatever I needed to put on the table and not be worried about getting it wrong or feeling judged or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, and I like to think that I do, and also in the same vein or respect, like I like to challenge too as well, right? And so,
Right.
like, I really enjoy challenging for the coach's growth, and but challenging from a loving way, and in a not a gentle way, but a more empathetic way, I would say. Yeah. So I love to create the safe space, but I also like to challenge a little bit too and make sure that you're growing from it as well. Yeah.
Right. Okay, you're so right. That's a really good point because yes, it's really important that we create a supportive and safe environment, but it's not just about being kind of having a nice warm cozy conversation, is it? Like we're there to learn, we're there to grow. And so the growth comes from the challenge 100%. And actually that's one thing that my supervisor says to me is that, Sarah, there is no growth without resistance. Just like when you go to the gym, if you want to build the muscle, you got to work. You're going to come up against resistance. It's exactly the same. If you want to grow as a person, you want to grow as a coach, there's going to be resistance there. And you're absolutely right. That's a great function of supervision, is to provide that challenge.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And if you're not being directly challenged, then the challenge for you is to find in that conversation where you where your blind spots are. How can you learn from the conversation as well?
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah. And actually, I would say, um, I think that one-to-one supervision can be really beneficial in calling out those blind spots. But I think that's a real strength of group supervision as well, that you're really called out on your blind spots, right, in a group context, because you've got not just your supervisor but maybe 4 or 5 other people who are listening really carefully to you and noticing
Mhm.
what you're saying and what you're not saying. And that can be a really impactful way, can't it, of calling out those blind spots.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. It's a little bit. I can't remember what I said the other day. Something about like it's humbling at the same time in
Yeah.
doing that, right? Because like you really are put on the stage and you have to look at, or you're looking at yourself, and there's humbleness in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
then
and do you know, I love that point actually, that humility that you get from putting yourself under the spotlight and being open to challenge. And it's interesting because a few episodes ago we were talking to Claire Pedrick, who wrote The Human Behind the Coach, and one of the things that she was talking about was the guruing that goes on in the coaching industry, and that that especially in the online world, like the coach kind of positioning themselves or being perceived as kind of better than, or the guru. But actually it's so important for the work that we do, that we have that, like, we keep that grounding, we keep that humbling, so that we can walk alongside our clients, so that we're
yeah.
not kind of above or leading our clients in our work.
Yeah, and then it circles back to the ego right there, right?
Right.
And I love that, and that's why I love it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for
Oh.
pointing that out.
Thank you. Oh, it's fascinating. I mean, we could be here all day with our shared love of supervision, but actually, I want to just circle back to you, if that's okay, to again, using Claire Pedrick's language here, the human behind the coach, because we've talked a lot about professional, but I know that
Mm.
there's a lot going on that's, for you personally as well. And I guess I'm curious to hear, like, you're juggling a lot at the moment behind the behind the scenes, and I'll let you share what, if any, that you want to share, but how you use your coaching and your mindset to support you when you're navigating life and its challenges, its ups and its downs. So I'd love to hear more about that, Melissa.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so what I'm dealing with all challenges at the moment, and not challenges, changes. So I have a new baby girl. She's 10 months old, so there's a lot involved with raising a little human. I'm sure you know, Rebecca knows. And then at the same time, we're also immigrating. So we're originally from South Africa. We moved to the Netherlands, and now we're moving back to South Africa. So there's a lot going on at the moment. And so what helps me, I would say, is two things, right? The first thing is like having that end goal in mind and knowing what I'm working towards and where I want to see myself. And that visualizing that we spoke about earlier is really just like
Mm.
keeping, because sometimes it's so easy to get caught up in like, this isn't working and that's not working, and it might not be working, but it might be leading you to that end goal at the end of the day. And so that is really important for me to keep that in mind. And then the second thing is to set aside time for myself, whether it's
Mm.
5 minutes in the shower and I'm listening to a meditation in the shower or whatever it might be, just making sure that I give myself that space to breathe, because it's really challenging sometimes to go through everything and you find yourself holding your breath and stressed out, and so you're needing to really make space for yourself every day. Yeah.
Thank you. That's absolute gold that you shared with us. And when you were speaking, about the keeping the end in mind and that ability to sort of to see the end goal, I was like, wow, I really see the supervisor in you, the ability to kind of zoom out of the immediacy of the current picture and to be able to see, like, okay, this is the bigger picture. This is where we're heading. And I'm so glad that you brought self-care into the conversation as well, because I think sometimes, oh, I don't know, it can feel like a bit of a nice to have, right? When I've got time. And I just think we can't emphasize enough how essential that is for us as coaches, as supervisors, who are holding space, who are taking on other people's energy, as well as navigating, what you're navigating personally, whatever's going on in our other roles and responsibilities in life, like actually being really, really conscious
Mm,
about taking that time in our day, like every day, to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and our energy as well.
for sure, because it's difficult to pour from an empty cup,
Right.
right? And it's about filling that cup every day with something that you enjoy doing, or that's important to you, or that soothes your soul. So yeah, it's really, really important. Thank you for that as well.
Oh, Melissa, thank you. Honestly, I can feel my breath slowing down. I can feel my soul being soothed just from speaking to you today. So thank you. Receiving a lot from this conversation.
Oh, thank you. Likewise.
Thank you. So we're coming into land now because we like to keep our episodes to kind of 30 minutes to manage everybody's attention spans. And Melissa, as you may be aware, we have a tradition here of offering two words to sum up what you're taking away from the conversation. So if you had to offer two words, what might they be?
One would be enlightening, because you
Mm.
always learn something new. And even from this conversation and sharing with you, I'm taking away new insights, new awareness. And then the second word would be soothing, because it's felt like a nice and welcome end to the day talking with you. And even at the end here, just talking about self care and how important it is has felt soothing in itself. So those are my two
Mm.
words.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing those. And yeah, I think mine are very similar actually. I think I think I felt very calmed by the conversation, so I definitely would say calming. And there's the word that was coming to me, which it sounds a bit weird, but the word that was coming is core. Like, I was thinking about like the core of an apple, and I was like, yeah, you are a coach to at your core. Like, it's not just something you do to earn a living. Like, I can just,
Yeah.
I know from you that it really permeates everything that you do. And I love that. And I think that's how we know. I mean, we talk, authenticity is a word that's kind of bandied around, but for you, that authenticity just shines through so strongly, because I'm like, this work that you're doing, this is who you are at your core. That's really special.
Oh, that's made my heart sing, and I'm
Ah,
wanting to cry. But thank you. I really appreciate that,
oh.
because that's really one of my values as well in life, is being authentic. And yeah, thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
Oh, bless you. So, listeners, we are both like tearing up at the end of this conversation.
Lots of love going around.
We're both tearing up at the end of the conversation. But I guess that's what happens, right? When we really connect, like, and we really get to the core of what
Yeah.
matters and what's important to each other. So, what a beautiful conversation, Melissa. Thank you so much for being here today, making the time to come on and speak to me.
Oh, thank you so much too. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. And
Mm.
listeners, we'd love to hear from you. As you've been listening today, what's resonated for you? If you're going to offer two words to sum up the conversation, what would they be? We'd really love you to share with us. All right. Take care until next time. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. That was
Oh,
lovely.
that was beautiful. Oh, Rebecca, were you welling up as well in the